I was installing new wiring at a diner in Riverside, 3 towns from my hometown of Clearwater, when I saw something that stopped my heart. My dad was sitting in a booth with a woman and 2 teenagers who looked exactly like me and my sister. I followed them to a house and watched through the window as he kissed the woman, played with those kids like they were his own family. My blood went cold. My dad had another complete family. Right then, I made a decision that would change everything. I would invite them all to Thanksgiving dinner at my mom's house. Justice was coming. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I drove back to Riverside before sunrise and parked 3 houses down from where I had seen my dad the night before. The neighborhood was quiet, just another middle-class street with oak trees lining the sidewalk and American flags hanging from a few porches. At 7:15, the front door opened. The woman stepped out, wearing scrubs and carrying a travel mug. She looked to be in her early 50s, with short brown hair and a tired but kind face. She got into a Honda Civic and drove off toward the medical center on Main Street. I wrote down her license plate number. 15 minutes later, the 2 teenagers emerged. The boy was tall, maybe 6'1", with dark hair and broad shoulders. He wore a Letterman jacket with a big R on it. The girl was younger, probably 14 or 15, with long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She carried a violin case. They walked to the bus stop together, laughing about something on the boy's phone. I sat there feeling sick to my stomach. These kids looked happy, normal. They had no idea their entire life was built on a lie. I spent the next 3 hours digging through social media. It did not take long to find them. The woman's name was Janet Holloway. Her Facebook profile said she was a medical assistant at Riverside Family Practice. Her profile picture showed her smiling with the 2 kids. The caption read, "Blessed to be mom to these 2 amazing humans." I found the kids next. The boy was Trevor Holloway, 16 years old, quarterback for Riverside High. His Instagram was full of football highlights and photos with teammates. The girl was Samantha Holloway, 14, honor roll student and first chair violin in the school orchestra. Her posts were mostly about music competitions and study groups, but what really made my hands shake was scrolling back through the years of photos. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, family vacations to the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone, and in nearly every single photo, there he was, my dad, Frank Martinez, smiling, like he belonged there. Like this was his real family. I did the math in my head. Trevor was 16. That meant my dad had been with Janet for at least 17 years. Maybe longer. I was 32 years old. My sister Emma was 29. My brother Caleb was 26. Our whole lives, our dad had been living a double life. The rage hit me so hard I had to pull over. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My mom, Helen, had been married to this man for 35 years. She worked as a cashier at the grocery store to help make ends meet. Emma was drowning in student loans from nursing school. Caleb worked 2 jobs, one at a warehouse and another doing overnight security, just to afford his tiny apartment. And all this time, Frank had been funding an entire second family 3 towns over. I looked at Janet's Facebook again. She had just posted about taking Trevor to look at colleges. The comments were full of congratulations and heart emojis. I felt a strange mixture of anger and pity. Did she know about us? Or was she a victim too? I created a fake Facebook profile using a random name and a stock photo. I sent Janet a message pretending to be from a community health organization, conducting a survey about local families. She responded within an hour, friendly and helpful. At the end of the conversation, she gave me her phone number for follow-up questions. My heart pounded as I dialed the number. It rang 3 times before she picked up. Hello? Hi. Is this Janet Holloway? Yes, speaking. I took a deep breath. My name is Luis Martinez. I am Frank Martinez's son from Clearwater. I would like to invite you and your family to our Thanksgiving dinner this Thursday. My mom is hosting. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought she had hung up. Hello? I said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Frank never mentioned. I did not know Frank had. He has 3 of us, I said, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was racing. I am 32. My sister Emma is 29. My brother Caleb is 26. Our mom's name is Helen. They have been married for 35 years. I heard a choked sound, then crying. Please come, I continued. Everyone deserves to know the truth. 4 o'clock on Thursday. 428 Maple Street in Clearwater. She hung up without another word. I sat in my truck for a long time, staring at my phone. What had I just done? I had just blown up multiple lives with a single phone call. But I could not stop now. This needed to happen. I drove straight to my mom's house. She was in the kitchen making coffee, still in her bathrobe. When I told her what I had discovered, she dropped her mug. It shattered on the tile floor, coffee splashing everywhere. She grabbed the counter to steady herself, hyperventilating so hard, I thought she might pass out. I helped her to a chair and made her breathe slowly. In and out, in and out. When she could finally speak, she said something that made my blood run cold. I knew, she whispered. I suspected. Years ago. He was gone so much, always had excuses, always had explanations. But when I confronted him, he made me feel crazy. He said I was being paranoid. He said I was pushing him away with my jealousy. He convinced me I was imagining things. She started crying hard, her whole body shaking. I called Emma and Caleb. They both came over immediately. When I told them about Janet, Trevor, and Samantha, Emma screamed. She grabbed a plate from the counter and threw it against the wall where it exploded into pieces. Then she collapsed on the floor, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Caleb did not say anything at first. He just stood there, his face getting redder and redder. Then he punched a hole in the hallway wall. He pulled his fist back, stared at his bloody knuckles, and started crying too. We all sat in the living room for hours, trying to process it. Mom kept saying she should have known. Emma kept asking why. Caleb just stared at the wall he had punched. Finally, I told them my plan. Invite Janet and her kids to Thanksgiving. Make Frank face everyone at once. Expose him in front of both families. Mom shook her head. This will humiliate me. In front of strangers. No, Mom, I said. This will humiliate him. He deserves this. Emma wiped her eyes. I want to see his face when he walks in and sees them there. Caleb nodded slowly. Let's do it. Mom looked at all 3 of us, then took a deep breath. Okay. Let's do it. We spent the rest of the day preparing. We brought extra chairs up from the basement. Mom started defrosting a bigger turkey. We cleaned the house top to bottom. Everything had to be perfect for the confrontation that was coming. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Trevor and Samantha. They were innocent in all this. They had no idea they were about to have their world destroyed. Part of me felt guilty, but a bigger part of me knew this was necessary. The truth had to come out. My phone rang at 11:30. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Luis? A young male voice. Yeah. Who is this? Trevor. Trevor Holloway. My mom told me everything. My stomach dropped. Look, I know this is hard to understand, but we are coming tomorrow, he interrupted. But you need to know something first. He paused for so long I thought the call had dropped. Trevor? My dad told us our whole lives that his first wife and kids died in a car accident. He took us to visit their graves. He shows us pictures of the headstones every year on the anniversary. We thought you were dead. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I could not breathe. He did not just hide you, Trevor continued, his voice shaking. He killed you off. In our reality, you have been dead for years. The line went quiet. Neither of us knew what to say. We will be there tomorrow, Trevor finally said. 4 o'clock. He hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed. Phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. My dad had not just created a second family. He had erased us completely. Made us ghosts. Told those kids we were dead. This was so much worse than I had imagined. Thanksgiving morning felt surreal. Mom cooked like she was in a trance, moving mechanically through the kitchen. Emma set the table with shaking hands. Caleb paced back and forth, checking his phone every 30 seconds. I kept looking out the window, half expecting Janet to change her mind. At 3 o'clock, a silver Toyota Camry pulled up to the curb. Through the window, I watched 3 people sit in the car for almost 5 minutes, none of them moving. Finally, the doors opened. Janet stepped out first. She looked smaller in person, more fragile. She wore a simple blue dress and clutched her purse like a life preserver. Trevor emerged from the passenger side, looking uncomfortable in khakis and a button-down shirt. Samantha came last, her eyes red from crying. I opened the door before they could knock. We stood there looking at each other. Trevor was almost exactly my height. Samantha had the same nose as Emma. "Thank you for coming," I said quietly. Janet's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Emma appeared beside me. She and Samantha stared at each other. It was like looking at a photograph from the past and present at the same time. Emma at 29 and Samantha at 14. But the resemblance was undeniable. "Come in," Emma whispered. We moved to the living room in awkward silence. Mom appeared from the kitchen carrying a tray of iced tea with trembling hands. She set it down on the coffee table and sat in the armchair, smoothing her dress over and over. "Thank you for inviting us," Janet said, her voice barely audible. "I know this must be impossible," Emma finished. "Insane? Heartbreaking?" Janet flinched but nodded. Caleb came down the stairs and froze when he saw Trevor. They could have been cousins. Same build. Same coloring. Same way of standing with their weight on one leg. "This is crazy," Caleb muttered. "He told us you died," Trevor said suddenly. "All of you, in a car accident. When I was 3 years old, he said he could not talk about it because it hurt too much. We have visited your graves." Mom made a sound like she had been slapped. "What?" "There are headstones," Samantha added quietly. "At Riverside Memorial Cemetery. Helen Martinez. Emma Martinez. Luis Martinez. Caleb Martinez. All died March 5th, 2007. We put flowers there every year." Emma started crying. Mom covered her mouth with both hands. I felt dizzy. "He made us dead?" I said. "He actually made fake graves?" "We thought we were his second family," Janet said, tears streaming down her face. "After he lost everything, we thought we were helping him heal." The room fell silent except for the sound of crying. "We were all victims, every single one of us. He will be here at 4, Mom said finally, checking her watch. In 45 minutes, we spent the next 3/4 of an hour in tense small talk, trying to fill the silence. Nobody touched the iced tea. The turkey timer went off, and Mom excused herself to the kitchen. Emma followed to help. Janet offered to join them, but Mom shook her head. I sat across from Trevor. "Quarterback, right?" He nodded. "Full ride scholarship to state." At least, I thought I had one. Now, I do not even know if my birth certificate is real. "Everything you feel is valid," I said. "This is not your fault." "It is not yours either," he replied. At exactly 4 o'clock, we heard a truck pull into the driveway. Everyone froze. I looked out the window and saw my dad's familiar blue Ford F-150. He got out carrying a pumpkin pie from the grocery store bakery. Smiling like this was just another normal Thanksgiving. The front door opened. Frank walked in, calling out cheerfully, "Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Sorry, I'm running right on time instead of early. Traffic was terrible en route." He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Janet and the kids. His face went completely white. The pie slipped from his hands and hit the floor, the tin splitting open, and orange filling splattering across the hardwood. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "Frank," Janet whispered. "Dad," Trevor said at the same time. Frank's mouth opened and closed. He looked from Janet to Mom to me to Trevor. His eyes were wild, darting around like a trapped animal looking for escape. "Hi, Dad," I said coldly. "I invited your other family. Surprise." Frank took a step backward. His hand found the doorframe. For a moment, I thought he might run, but then something changed in his face. The panic disappeared. His shoulders started shaking. He was crying, deep, gut-wrenching sobs that came from his chest. He fell to his knees right there in the doorway, next to the destroyed pie, and covered his face with his hands. "I am so sorry," he choked out between sobs. "I am so sorry. I have a problem. I am sick. I need help." Mom moved toward him instinctively. 35 years of marriage pulled at her like gravity. Frank looked up, tears streaming down his face. "I have a sex and love addiction. I have been in therapy for years, but I keep relapsing. I never meant to hurt anyone. I love both families. I could not choose. I could not give anyone up." He crawled forward on his knees, reaching for Mom's hands. "Helen, you are the love of my life. But when I met Janet, I felt that same connection and I could not let it go. I thought I could make everyone happy if I just worked hard enough. If I just tried hard enough." Janet made a sobbing sound and covered her face. Frank turned to his kids, all 5 of them. "I wanted to be a good father to everyone. I worked myself to death trying to provide for both families. Look at my hands." He held them up. They were calloused and scarred from decades of construction work. "I have been working 80-hour weeks for years. I never took vacations. I never rested, because I wanted all of you to have everything you needed." Emma was crying now too. She moved closer to Frank, then knelt down and hugged him. "Daddy," she whispered. Caleb's angry expression softened. He looked confused, torn between rage and sympathy. Trevor stepped forward. "Dad, why did not you just tell us the truth?" "I was ashamed," Frank said, his voice breaking. "I grew up in foster care. I never had a real family. When I finally found love with your mom, I was so afraid of losing it. Then I met Janet and I felt that fear again. I could not lose either of you, so I made the worst possible choice. I tried to keep both." He looked at Janet. "You saved me. When we met, I was in such a dark place. You brought light back into my life." Then he looked at Mom. "And you, Helen, you have been my rock for 35 years. I would be nothing without you." Mom was crying silently, tears running down her face. Frank stood up slowly, looking at everyone. "I know I do not deserve forgiveness. I know what I have done is unforgivable. But please, can we just have this one meal together? As a family? All of us? Let me try to make up for even a fraction of what I have stolen from you." The room was silent, except for the sound of crying. Then Mom spoke. "Everyone sit down. The turkey is ready." I stared at her in disbelief. "Mom, you cannot be serious." "Sit down, Louise," she said firmly. Janet nodded and moved toward the dining room. Trevor and Samantha followed. Emma helped Frank up from the floor. Caleb looked at me, shrugged helplessly, and walked to the table. "We says ad. We says ad." I stood there alone in the living room, watching everyone take their seats. This was not what I had planned. I wanted confrontation. I wanted justice. Instead, my dad had turned himself into the victim, and everyone was buying it. I had no choice but to join them. Dinner was surreal. Frank told stories that made both families laugh. He was charming and self-deprecating, making jokes about his terrible cooking skills and his habit of falling asleep during movies. He talked about how proud he was of each of his kids. He turned to Emma. "You are going to be an amazing nurse. You have always had such a caring heart." To Trevor, "That scholarship to state is going to change your life, son. You earned it." To Samantha, "Your violin playing brings tears to my eyes every time. You have a gift." To Caleb, "You are the hardest worker I know. You remind me of myself at your age." To me, "Luis, you have always been my problem solver, the one who thinks things through. I am so proud of the man you have become." I wanted to throw my plate across the room, but Emma was smiling. Caleb was nodding along. Even Trevor seemed moved by Frank's words. By the time dessert came around, the two families were bonding. Emma and Samantha were taking selfies together, comparing their similar features and laughing. Caleb and Trevor were deep in conversation about football. Mom and Janet were actually exchanging recipes, talking about the best way to make stuffing. I sat at the end of the table, watching my carefully planned revenge dissolve into a family therapy session. Frank had somehow made himself the sympathetic center of attention. Everyone was focused on his pain, his struggle, his addiction. Nobody was talking about the lies, the theft, the fake graves. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out under the table. Unknown number. A text message. You need to check your father's storage unit in Millbrook. Unit 247. Code is 8356. You will want to see what is inside. I stared at the message. Who sent this? How did they know about a storage unit? I looked up at Frank. He was laughing at something Trevor said, his arm around Janet's shoulders. He looked so genuine, so sincere. But someone out there knew something I did not. The next morning, Black Friday, I woke up feeling like I had lived through a nightmare instead of Thanksgiving dinner. I called Emma and Caleb at 7 in the morning. They both sounded groggy and confused. We need to go to Millbrook, I said. Right now. Why? Emma asked. I got a text last night. Someone told me about a storage unit. Dad's storage unit. Caleb was immediately awake. Who sent it? I do not know, but I need to check it out. They agreed to meet me at my apartment in 30 minutes. We piled into my truck and drove west. Millbrook was the fourth town in this nightmare, an hour away from Clearwater. None of us talked much during the drive. We were all exhausted from yesterday, emotionally drained from watching our father manipulate everyone. Secure Store Self-Storage sat at the edge of town, a sprawling complex of orange and white metal buildings surrounded by chain-link fence. We pulled up to the gate, and I punched in the code from the text. The gate rolled open. Unit 247 was in the back corner, away from the main office. The lock was digital. I entered 8356. The lock clicked open with a green light. My hands were shaking as I grabbed the handle and rolled up the metal door. Inside was a 10 by 10 space packed with filing cabinets, cardboard boxes, and a small desk with a laptop sitting on it. The laptop was open and running, like someone had just stepped away from it. Emma went straight to the filing cabinets. Caleb started opening boxes. I sat down at the desk and touched the laptop touchpad. The screen came to life. No password needed. This feels like a trap, Caleb muttered. Probably, I agreed. But we are here now. The laptop desktop was organized into folders. Financial records, property documents, insurance policies, legal files, personal correspondence, and one folder labeled simply, Family 3. My blood went cold. Family 3? I clicked it open. Inside were hundreds of photos of my dad with another woman and a young boy. The photos were dated going back 8 years. Beach vacations, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. The woman was blonde, late 30s, with a warm smile. The boy looked about 8 years old in the most recent photos. No, Emma whispered from behind me. She was looking over my shoulder. No, no, no. I opened a document titled Diana Brennan, Summary. It was a detailed file about this third woman. Diana Brennan, age 42, licensed therapist with a private practice in Millbrook. Son Marcus, age 8, married to Frank for 9 years, according to the documents. Caleb opened a filing cabinet and pulled out bank statements. He has been stealing from us. Look at this. He spread papers across the floor. Statements from our mom's checking account showed regular transfers to an account we did not recognize. $500 every 2 weeks for years. Emma found more. He took out a home equity loan against Mom's house. She owes $70,000. Mom does not even know about this. I found something worse. A document with my sister's forged signature. Frank had taken out a loan in Emma's name, using her social security number. $112,000. Emma's credit was ruined, and she had no idea. Caleb found his own nightmare. Credit cards opened in his name. $23,000 in debt. His credit score destroyed. He did the same thing to Janet, Emma said, holding up more papers. And to this Diana woman, he has been stealing from everyone. I kept digging through the laptop. I found emails between Frank and someone named Bernard Hutchins, an attorney. The emails laid out a plan. Frank was going to disappear. Leave the country. He had been planning this for 2 years. The plan was to transfer all the stolen money into offshore accounts. Then stage his own death. Collect life insurance from all 3 families. The total payout would be $3.2 million. The escape date was marked in red on a calendar. December 15th, 3 weeks away. I found a journal file buried deep in the documents folder. I opened it and started reading. My hands began to shake so badly I could barely hold the mouse. The journal entries went back 5 years. Frank wrote about his project like it was a game. He detailed his manipulation tactics, how he studied psychology to learn how to control people, how he practiced emotional responses in the mirror. One entry from 6 months ago made me feel sick. Perfecting the breakdown cry. I can produce tears in under 30 seconds now. The key is to think about losing everything, then channeling that fear into my face. People cannot resist a man who cries. They want a comfort, they want a fix. Especially women. Tears are my best weapon. Another entry from 2 weeks ago. Luis is becoming a problem. Too smart. Too suspicious. If he discovers Riverside family, I may need to deploy the intervention strategy early. Make him look unstable. Discredit him before he can discredit me. He had planned yesterday. All of it. The surprise, the breakdown, the tears, the confession. It was all scripted. We need to take this to the police, Emma said. Right now, I nodded. We started gathering documents, loading boxes into the truck. We took the laptop. We took everything. We drove straight to our dad's house in Clearwater, the house he shared with our mom. Helen's car was in the driveway, so was Janet's. They were inside drinking coffee together when we burst through the door. We found everything, I said, dumping papers onto the kitchen table. He has another family, a third family in Millbrook, a woman named Diana Brennan and a son named Marcus. And he has been stealing from everyone. I showed them the bank statements, the forged documents, the emails about the escape plan. He has $400,000 hidden. He was planning to fake his death in 3 weeks and collect life insurance from all of you. $3.2 million total. Then disappear to Mexico. Mom stared at the papers. Janet picked up the photos of Diana and Marcus, her hands shaking. For a moment, Frank looked genuinely cornered. His eyes darted between the evidence spread across the table. Then, his expression changed. The fear disappeared. Something cold and calculating took its place. He stood up slowly. Where did you get these documents? Your storage unit, I said. My private storage unit, Frank said carefully. That you broke into. That does not matter. What matters is, it matters very much. Frank picked up his phone. Breaking and entering is a felony. You violated my privacy. You stole my property. You stole our identities, Emma shouted. Frank kept his voice calm. I want my laptop and all my documents back immediately. Or, I am calling the police and pressing charges. Call them, Caleb said. We will show them everything. Everything you obtained illegally, Frank said. Which means it cannot be used as evidence. But you're breaking and entering? That is very much illegal. I can prove that. Mom looked confused. Frank, what about this third family? These documents are fabricated, Frank said smoothly. Luis has been planning this for weeks. He admitted yesterday that he followed me. That he stalked me to Riverside. Now he has broken into my storage unit and created fake evidence. This is harassment. We did not create anything, I yelled. Frank started dialing. I am calling my brother. His brother, Sheriff Deputy Gary Martinez, who worked for the county and would absolutely take Frank's side. Within 20 minutes, a police officer arrived. Not Gary, thankfully, but one of his colleagues. Frank played the concerned father perfectly. He explained that his son had been acting erratically, that I had broken into his private storage unit, that I had stolen his property. The officer asked me if I had permission to enter the unit. No, but... Did you break the lock? No, someone gave me the code, but... So you knowingly entered private property without permission, and removed items that do not belong to you? I looked at Emma and Caleb. They looked as helpless as I felt. Return the property, the officer said. All of it, or charges will be filed. Frank stood by the door, arms crossed, looking satisfied. We had no choice. We carried everything back to the truck, drove back to Millbrook, put everything back in the storage unit. Frank followed in his own truck to make sure we did not keep anything. As we were loading the last box back inside, Frank leaned close to me and whispered, "You should have just let it go, son. Now you have made an enemy." He took the laptop, got in his truck, and drove away. We stood in the empty storage unit, defeated. "What just happened?" Emma asked quietly. "He won," I said. "He always wins." Monday morning, I woke up to pounding on my apartment door. A courier handed me a thick manila envelope marked "Legal Documents, Signature Required." Inside was a lawsuit. Frank was suing me for harassment, defamation, and invasion of privacy. He was demanding $50,000 in damages. My hands shook as I read through the legal language. I called 3 lawyers. None of them would take my case without a retainer of at least $10,000 up front. I had maybe $800 in my checking account. At noon, my boss Gerald called me into his office at Maxwell Electric. Gerald was a good man, had given me my job 6 years ago, promoted me to senior electrician last year. He looked uncomfortable as I sat down. "Luis, I need to ask you something directly. Have you been using company tools for personal projects?" "What? No, never," Gerald sighed. "Your father called me this morning. He says you have been stealing tools and materials. He says you have been using company time to harass his family." He sounded very upset. Very credible. I felt the floor drop out from under me. He is lying. I swear to you. I have never stolen anything. He knew specific details. He described our job site in Riverside. He said you have been skipping work to follow him. I took one sick day. On Friday. That is it. Gerald looked pained. I have to suspend you pending an investigation. Without pay. I am sorry. I walked out of the building in a daze. I called Emma. She did not answer. I called Caleb. Voicemail. I drove to my mom's house. I needed someone to believe me. When I pulled up, I saw Frank's truck in the driveway, along with Janet's car and several others I did not recognize. I walked in without knocking. The living room was full. Mom, Emma, Caleb, Janet, Trevor, Samantha, and 2 other people I had never seen before. A middle-aged woman in a blazer and a man with gray hair holding a clipboard. Everyone turned to look at me. "Luis," Mom said gently, "we were just talking about you." Frank stood up. He looked concerned, caring. "Son, please sit down." "What is this?" I asked. "This is an intervention," Frank said softly. "We are worried about you." I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. "An intervention? Are you kidding me?" Emma's eyes were red from crying. "Luis, honey, we want to help you." "Help me? I am trying to help all of you. He has another family. He is stealing from everyone." The woman in the blazer spoke up. "Luis, my name is Dr. Patricia Brennan. I am a licensed therapist. Your father asked me to speak with you." Brennan. The same last name as the 3rd wife. My head spun. "I do not need a therapist," I said. "Luis, please," Mom pleaded. "Just listen." Frank moved toward me, his expression full of sympathy. "Son, I know you have been under a lot of stress. We all have. Finding out about my addiction was traumatic for everyone. But breaking into my storage unit, creating false documents, these are signs of a serious problem. I did not create anything. Those documents were real." "Luis," Janet said gently. Frank explained everything to us. Those were writing projects from his fiction class. He has been taking a creative writing course to help work through his addiction issues. I stared at her. "You believe that?" Trevor stood up. "Luis, we saw the syllabus. The class assignment was to create a fake life story. Dad brought his work to show us. It matches everything you claim to find." "This is insane," I said. Dr. Brennan spoke again. "Luis, children of addicts often develop trust issues and paranoid thinking as a trauma response. It is a way of trying to maintain control in an uncontrollable situation, but it can become harmful if left untreated. She handed me a brochure for a psychiatric treatment facility in Vermont. "I am not paranoid," I shouted. Caleb stood up and put his hand on my shoulder. "Bro, you punched a hole in the wall on Thanksgiving. You have been obsessing over Dad for days. Maybe you should talk to someone." I shrugged him off. "Did he pay you to say that?" "Luis," Mom gasped. Frank just looked sad. He had tears in his eyes. "I love you, son. We all do. Please, let us help you." I looked around the room. Every single person was looking at me with pity, like I was the crazy one, like I was the problem. I walked out without another word. Over the next week, my life fell apart piece by piece. My landlord, who went to the same church as Frank, gave me an eviction notice. Something about disturbing other tenants with my erratic behavior. I had been nothing but quiet, but it did not matter. My bank account was frozen. Someone had reported suspicious activity. When I called to explain, they said there was an investigation into potential fraud linked to my account. The investigation would take 30 days. My truck died on Route 9. The mechanic said the engine was shot. Repairs would cost $3,000. I had no way to pay for it. Emma blocked my number. Caleb stopped answering my calls. Mom left a voicemail saying she loved me but needed space while I worked on my mental health. I checked into the Starlight Motel on Route 9. The cheapest place I could find. $40 a night. I had maybe $300 left to my name. No job, no car, no family. I sat on the stained bedspread in that dingy room and tried to figure out how everything had gone so wrong. A week ago, I had been the hero exposing the villain. Now I was the villain in everyone else's story. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. The voice was electronically distorted. "Frank is winning because you are playing his game. Stop trying to expose him. Start thinking like him." Who is this? Someone who knows what Frank really is. Check your email. I sent you something useful. But be careful. If Frank finds out about these files, he will know someone else is working against him. The line went dead. I opened my email on my phone. A new message from a encrypted address. No subject line, just an attachment. 300 megabytes of compressed files. I downloaded them using the motel's Wi-Fi. It took 20 minutes. When they finally opened, my heart nearly stopped. Video files. Hundreds of them. Security camera footage from inside the storage unit. I clicked on the first one. The angle showed the desk and filing cabinets. The timestamp was from 4 months ago. Frank entered the frame with a woman. Not Helen, not Janet, not even Diana Brennan. A fourth woman I had never seen. They kissed. They looked at paperwork together. She signed documents. Frank put them in a filing cabinet. I clicked through more videos. Different women, different dates. By the time I finished, I had counted 5 different women, 5 families, not 3, 5. The other 2 were Kristen Parker from Hartford and Natalie Chen from Springfield. More bank statements, more forged documents, more stolen identities, more fake relationships. But there was more. Videos of Frank meeting with a man in a suit. I recognized him from the documents. Bernard Hutchins, his attorney. They were planning something. I found the most recent video, 2 weeks old. Frank and Bernard discussing the insurance fraud plan in detail. "The death has to look accidental," Frank said on the video. "Construction site accident. I have guys who can make it look good." "What about the body?" Bernard asked. "Taken care of. Got a connection at the county morgue. John Doe from last month. No family. DNA will be compromised by the accident." "And the life insurance?" "Policies with all 5 families. Total payout, $3.2 million. I split it with you 20/80. "When?" "December 15th, 3 weeks." They shook hands on camera. I had evidence of massive fraud, multiple families, identity theft, and planned insurance fraud totaling millions. All on video. But every single video was obtained illegally. Hidden cameras in a private storage unit. No warrant. No permission. None of it was admissible in court. Worse, if Frank found out about these recordings, he would know someone else was feeding me information. He would go after them. And he would accelerate his plans. I sat in that motel room holding evidence that could destroy my father but could not be used. I had never felt more powerless in my entire life. I stared at the videos playing on my phone screen. Frank's face, smiling and confident, planning to fake his death and steal millions from families who trusted him. The anonymous caller was right. I had been playing Frank's game, trying to expose him directly, trying to make people see the truth. But Frank was always 3 steps ahead. He controlled the narrative. He controlled people's emotions. He was a master manipulator who had been perfecting his craft for decades. I needed to think differently. I needed to stop being reactive and start being strategic. But how? I called the anonymous number back. It rang twice before someone picked up. "You watch the videos," the distorted voice said. "Not a question. I need to meet you in person." Silence. Then, Gateway Diner. "Next town over, midnight. Come alone." The line went dead. I walked 3 miles to the diner in the dark. The Starlight Motel did not have cabs, and I had no car. My feet hurt by the time I pushed through the diner doors at 11:58. The place was nearly empty. A tired waitress refilling napkin holders, a trucker eating pie at the counter, and a woman sitting alone in the corner booth. She was in her 50s, with shoulder-length brown hair and wire-rimmed glasses. She wore a gray cardigan and looked like someone who could be your favorite teacher or your therapist. When she saw me, she gestured to the seat across from her. I slid into the booth. Up close, I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. This woman had not slept well in days. "My name is Diana Brennan," she said quietly. My brain short-circuited. "The therapist." "The third wife?" She nodded. "And the idiot who helped Frank manipulate all of you during that intervention." I did not know the truth then. I do now. The waitress came over. Diana ordered coffee. I did the same, even though I knew I would not sleep anyway. When the waitress left, Diana pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Frank told me his previous families were estranged, that he was the victim of a bitter divorce, and that his ex-wife had poisoned his children against him. He said you all refused to see him, that you blamed him for things that were not his fault. She paused, took a shaky breath. I believed him. I am a therapist. I am supposed to see through lies. But he was so convincing, so broken. I wanted to help him heal. "When did you find out?" I asked. 2 weeks ago. I was cleaning his office at our house and found a thumb drive hidden in a book. I plugged it in thinking it was family photos or documents. Instead, I found financial records, emails with his attorney, plans to disappear and collect life insurance from 5 different families. She opened the folder. Inside were documents I had never seen. Medical records, criminal background checks, court documents from other states. Frank's real name is Franklin Dupree. He has been running this con for 35 years. Before he met your mother, he was in Oregon with a woman named Patricia Sorensen. He destroyed her financially, stole her inheritance, and disappeared. She died by suicide 6 months later. I felt sick, Diana continued. In Colorado, he married a woman named Susan Wright. 2 kids. He drained their bank accounts and fled. There is still a warrant for his arrest there. Same thing in Texas, with a woman named Caroline Foster. Identity theft, fraud, forgery. He has warrants in 3 states. How did no one catch him? He changes locations, uses different names. He is careful. And he has his brother, the deputy, to help cover things up when needed. The coffee arrived. Neither of us touched it. I hired a private investigator, Diana said. Cost me $12,000 I did not have. But I found everything. The other families, the storage unit, the insurance fraud scheme. I installed the cameras myself. I have been documenting everything. Why help me? Her eyes filled with tears. Because you are the only one who tried to fight back. Everyone else let him manipulate them. But you kept digging. You would not let it go. Even when he destroyed your life. He destroyed yours too. He took 7 years from me. He made me complicit in hurting your family. He used my professional credentials to make you look unstable. She wiped her eyes. I want him to pay. We spent the next 2 hours building a plan. Diana had copies of everything. Financial records, emails, the videos. She had also compiled evidence of Frank's criminal history across multiple states. But the problem remained. Most of the evidence was obtained illegally or came from sealed court records Diana had accessed through less than legal means. We could not go to the local police because Frank's brother was a deputy. We could not go to the state police because Frank had been building relationships with law enforcement for decades. We need federal jurisdiction, Diana said. FBI, interstate fraud, identity theft across state lines, wire fraud with the insurance scheme. That is federal. Will they take the case? If we present it right. But we need to catch him in the act. We need him to trigger the insurance fraud himself. Then the FBI can move in. We devised a strategy. Diana would tell Frank that I had been committed to a psychiatric facility in Vermont. This would make him overconfident. He would think the biggest threat to his plan was neutralized. Meanwhile, I would contact the FBI directly. Present the evidence. Work with federal agents to set up a sting. What about you? I asked. This puts you in danger. Diana smiled sadly. He already took everything that mattered. My career, my savings, my self-respect. I have nothing left to lose. But you do. You have a family that still loves you even if they cannot see the truth right now. You have a future. So we do this for you. The hardest part of the plan was what came next. I had to stay hidden. I had to let everyone believe I was institutionalized. That meant calling my mom and lying to her. Diana gave me a burner phone and a script. At 2 a.m, I made the call. Mom? It is Luis. Oh, honey, where are you? Are you okay? Her voice was thick with worry and sleep. I am at a treatment facility in Vermont. Dr. Brennan helped me get admitted. I am sorry for everything. I know I scared you all. I am getting help. Mom started crying. I love you so much. Please get better. I will, Mom. I promise. I hung up and stared at the burner phone. I had never lied to my mother like that before. It felt terrible, but it was necessary. Diana went home and called Frank. I listened on speakerphone from a motel room 3 towns away. Frank? It is Diana. I wanted to let you know. Luis is safe. I helped him get admitted to Green Mountain Psychiatric Center in Vermont. He is getting the treatment he needs. I heard the relief in Frank's voice through the phone. Thank God. I was so worried about him. Thank you for taking care of this. Of course. Family helps family, right? Right. After she hung up, Diana texted me. He bought it. The next morning, I drove 2 hours to Boston and walked into the FBI field office. I asked to speak with someone who handled interstate fraud. After an hour of waiting, I was taken to a small conference room where a woman in a dark suit introduced herself as Special Agent Corinne Fletcher. I laid out everything, the multiple families, the stolen identities, the forged documents, the warrants in other states, the planned insurance fraud. I showed her the documents Diana had compiled. Agent Fletcher listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. This is one of the most elaborate long cons I have seen in my career, she said. But we have a problem. Most of this evidence would not hold up in court. I know. That is why we need to catch him in the act. Explain. I told her about the December 15th date, the planned fake death, the construction site accident, the body from the morgue, the life insurance policies totaling $3.2 million. If we can record him triggering the fraud, if we can catch him meeting with his accomplices, if we can document the fake death in real time, then we have an airtight case. Agent Fletcher made some notes. I will need to run this up the chain. But I think we can work with this. When is your father planning this meeting with all 5 families? December 14th, the day before the fake death. He is going to get all 5 families to sign estate planning documents that give him power of attorney over everyone's assets. Perfect. We can record that. Show he is systematically gaining control before he disappears. We spent the next 6 hours planning. Agent Fletcher brought in 2 other agents. They set up surveillance on Frank, on his attorney, on the construction site he had selected for his fake death. They started building a federal case. My role was to stay hidden, stay quiet, let Frank believe he had won. The hardest part was knowing my family thought I was in a psychiatric hospital. Emma had called the burner phone twice to check on me. Caleb sent a text saying he hoped I was feeling better. Mom called every day just to hear my voice. I lied to all of them, told them I was making progress, told them the therapists were helping, told them I would be home soon. It was torture. On December 10th, Diana called me. Her voice was shaking. We have a problem. Frank's attorney filed an emergency motion with the court this morning. He is declaring you mentally incompetent. What does that mean? It means your testimony is inadmissible. The judge ruled 2 hours ago. Anything you say in court will be dismissed as delusions from someone who is not mentally capable of distinguishing truth from fiction. I felt the room spin, but the FBI already knows. Agent Fletcher called me. She says your testimony was a key part of the case. Without it, they are not sure they have enough to prosecute. What about you? Diana's voice broke. I got a letter from the state licensing board this morning. Someone filed an ethics complaint. My license is suspended pending investigation. The complaint says I violated patient confidentiality and engaged in fraudulent therapy practices. Frank, he knew I was helping you. I do not know how, but he knew. And he neutralized both of us. I sat down hard on the motel bed. Can the FBI still move forward? Agent Fletcher says they need something concrete. Something that does not rely on testimony from either of us. They need Frank to incriminate himself directly on recording, with multiple witnesses, in a way that cannot be disputed. The meeting tomorrow. With all 5 families, they will record it. But Frank is careful. His attorney will make sure everything looks legal. We need more. I thought for a long moment, what if we give him what he wants? What do you mean? He thinks I am neutralized. He thinks you are scared. He thinks he has won, so he will get cocky. He will make mistakes. What if we give him even more rope to hang himself with? Diana was quiet. Then, what are you thinking? I explained my plan. It was risky. It could backfire spectacularly. But it was the only chance we had. If this goes wrong, Diana said, we both go to prison. If this goes right, I replied, Frank goes to prison and 5 families get justice. Diana took a deep breath. Okay, let's do it. December 14th arrived with freezing rain that coated everything in ice. I watched from across the street as people arrived at Bernard Hutchins' law office downtown. Mom in her old sedan. Janet in her Camry. Diana in her SUV. Then 2 other women I had only seen in videos. Kristen Parker, a redhead in her 40s. Natalie Chen. Younger, maybe early 30s. All 5 wives. Behind them came the kids. Emma and Caleb. Trevor and Samantha. Marcus. Diana's 8-year-old son. Kristen's teenage daughter Ashley. Natalie's twin boys, who looked about 12. 9 children, 5 wives. One monster who had fooled them all. Frank arrived last, pulling up in his truck and jogging through the rain. He wore a suit and carried a briefcase. He looked every bit the concerned family man trying to protect everyone he loved. I sat in a rented car with tinted windows, binoculars in hand, FBI surveillance equipment recording everything. Agent Fletcher was 2 blocks away in an unmarked van with 3 other agents. Diana had agreed to wear a wire under her sweater. Through the FBI's audio feed, I heard everything. Bernard Hutchins, Frank's attorney, welcomed everyone into the conference room. His voice was smooth and professional. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I know this has been a confusing time for everyone, but Frank wants to make sure you are all protected. Frank's voice, warm and humble. I know I have made terrible mistakes. I know I have hurt all of you, but I want to do right by everyone. These estate planning documents will make sure you are all taken care of if anything happens to me. Janet's voice, uncertain. What kind of documents? Bernard explained. Power of attorney, updated wills, beneficiary designations, trust documents, everything you need to ensure your financial security. For the next hour, I listened as Bernard walked everyone through the paperwork. The language was dense and confusing. He explained things just enough to make them sound reasonable, but not enough for anyone to understand what they were really signing. Diana asked pointed questions. Why do you need power of attorney over our accounts? Bernard had smooth answers. It is for estate planning purposes, to avoid probate, to make sure assets can be transferred efficiently if something happens to Frank. Helen's voice, shaky. Will this affect my house? Not at all, Mrs. Martinez. This actually protects your house. It was all lies wrapped in legal jargon. But it sounded convincing. One by one, they signed. Helen, Janet, Diana, Kristen, Natalie. All 5 wives putting their names on documents that would give Frank complete control over everything they owned. The children signed as witnesses. Emma's voice as she signed. Caleb clearing his throat. Trevor asking if this was really necessary. Samantha quietly putting her name down. When the last signature was complete, I heard Frank exhale with relief. Thank you, he said. All of you. I know this was not easy. But now I can rest knowing you are all protected. The meeting broke up. Through my binoculars, I watched them file out. The wives looked exhausted. The kids looked confused. Frank looked triumphant. He stayed behind with Bernard. I heard their conversation through Diana's wire as she lingered near the door. Frank laughed. It was a sound I had never heard from him. Cold. Cruel. Nothing like the warm dad voice he used with his families. How, phase 1 complete, he said. Tomorrow, I will be dead and gone. Bernard's voice was equally cold. The construction site is ready. Everything is in place. The beam falls at 9:30 tomorrow morning. The body is already there. Dental records have been swapped. By noon tomorrow, Franklin Dupree will be officially dead. By midnight, I will be in Costa Rica under a new name with $3.2 million. What about your brother, the deputy? Gary knows his role. He will handle the local investigation. Make sure it closes quickly. Accidental death. No questions. And the families? Frank laughed again. They will get sympathy and insurance payments, which I control thanks to those power of attorney documents. Within 6 months, I will have drained every account, sold every property, and disappeared completely. They will never find me. Agent Fletcher's voice crackled in my earpiece. We got it. That is enough for federal charges. Wire fraud, conspiracy to commit, insurance fraud, identity theft, forgery. We can move in now. Wait, I said into my microphone. There is more coming. Because I knew something Agent Fletcher did not know. I had made my own plan last night. A plan Diana and I had kept secret from the FBI. Diana had not left the building. She was still in the hallway outside the conference room, her wire picking up everything. And now she walked back in. Frank, she said, we need to talk. Through my binoculars, I saw Frank's face change. Surprise, then suspicion. Diana, I thought you left. I stayed. I heard everything you just said. Bernard stood up quickly. You need to leave. This is a private conversation. I am not going anywhere. Diana's voice was steady. Strong. You are not going to fake your death. You are not going to steal from these families. You are not going anywhere. Frank's voice hardened. You are making a mistake. No, Frank. You made the mistake. You underestimated me. You underestimated Luis. You thought you could manipulate everyone forever. Frank moved toward her. Diana, think about Marcus. Think about your son. You do not want to do this. Do not you dare use my son to threaten me. That was my cue. I got out of the car and ran across the street through the freezing rain. I burst into the law office, taking the stairs 2 at a time. When I pushed open the conference room door, Frank's face went white. Luis, he breathed. You're supposed to be in Vermont. Surprise, Dad. I lied. Just like you taught me. Frank looked from me to Diana to Bernard. I could see him calculating. Looking for exits. Looking for angles. You are both making a huge mistake, Frank said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were panicked. I will sue you for defamation. For harassment, I will destroy you. With what money? I asked. The FBI has already frozen all your accounts. They have been watching you for 2 weeks. That was when Agent Fletcher and her team came through the door. 4 federal agents in tactical gear. Franklin Dupree, you are under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, identity theft across state lines, and fraud against the United States. You have the right to remain silent. Frank did not run. He did not fight. He just stood there as they cuffed him, his expression blank. But as they led him past me, he leaned close and whispered, "This is not over." I watched them take him away. I should have felt victorious. We had won. We had caught him. The recordings were clear. His own words incriminated him. The FBI had everything they needed. But something felt wrong. Agent Fletcher came over to me. "Good work. We could not have done this without you and Dr. Brennan. Is it enough to convict him?" "Absolutely. Between the recordings, the documents, and his own confession, this is airtight." I nodded. I should have felt relieved. But I kept hearing Frank's voice in my head. "This is not over." Diana came over, put her hand on my shoulder. "We did it. He is going to prison." "Yeah," I said. But I could not shake the feeling that Frank had one more move planned. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. "Luis Martinez." On unfamiliar voice. "Yes? This is Sheriff Gary Martinez, Frank's brother. I need you to come down to the station. We need to ask you some questions about the surveillance operation and whether you had proper authorization." My stomach dropped. "The FBI authorized everything. That may be. But I still need you to come in. If you refuse, I will issue a warrant for your arrest for illegal surveillance and conspiracy." He hung up. I looked at Diana. Her phone was ringing too. She answered. Listened. Then, her face went pale. "That was Child Protective Services," she said quietly. "Someone filed a complaint about my fitness as a mother. They are sending someone to evaluate Marcus tonight. If they determine I am unfit, they will take him into custody." "Frank," I said, "even from jail." My phone rang again. This time it was Emma. "Luis, what is happening?" "The police are here at Mom's house. They are saying Dad was arrested. They are asking questions about you. They are saying you might have broken laws, that you might have put our family in danger." I closed my eyes. Even in handcuffs, Frank was still playing the game. Still manipulating. Still 3 steps ahead. "Emma, listen to me carefully. Do not talk to the police without a lawyer. Tell Mom the same thing. Do not say anything." "Luis, what have you done?" I caught Dad. "He was going to fake his death and steal millions from everyone. But he has people helping him, even now. You have to trust me." "I do not know what to believe anymore," she said, and hung up. I looked at Agent Fletcher. "Can you help us?" She looked uncomfortable. "The FBI has jurisdiction over the federal charges. But if local law enforcement wants to pursue charges against you for how evidence was obtained, that is outside our authority. You might need your own attorney." Diana and I stood in that conference room, watching Frank's plan continue to work even after his arrest. He had built contingencies, backup plans, people who owed him favors. We had won the battle, but the war was not over. That night, I went to see my family. All 5 families were at my mom's house. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted to know what was real. When I walked in, the room went silent. 9 kids and 5 wives, all staring at me. Trevor stood up. "Is it true? Did you set up surveillance on my dad?" "Yes." Samantha's voice was small. "Is he really a criminal?" "Yes." Helen started crying. "How much of our marriage was real?" "I do not know, Mom. I am sorry." Janet looked at me with red eyes. "He told me you all died in a car accident. He took me to your graves. Were those real?" "No. The graves were fake. We have been alive this whole time." Natalie Chen, the youngest wife, spoke up. "How many of us are there?" 5 wives, 9 kids, that we know of." The room erupted. Everyone talking at once. Crying. Yelling. Demanding answers. I did not have. Diana tried to calm everyone down, but it was chaos. My phone rang. I stepped outside to answer. It was Agent Fletcher. "Luis, we have a problem. A big one." "What now?" "Frank's attorney posted bail an hour ago." "What? How?" "Federal charges do not allow bail for flight risk. His attorney argued he has deep community ties. No passport, Nowhere to flee. The judge bought it. Frank is out. He has a tracking monitor. But he is out. I felt ice run through my veins. He is going to run. We are watching him. But I wanted you to know. Be careful. I hung up and went back inside. I tried to tell everyone about Frank being out on bail. But nobody wanted to listen. They were too busy fighting with each other. Kristen blamed Janet for not seeing the signs. Janet blamed Helen for staying married to him so long. Natalie was crying and saying she just wanted to go home. The kids were confused and angry. I tried to explain what Frank had planned. The fake death. The insurance fraud. The escape to Costa Rica. But it was too much. Too complicated. Too insane to believe. Emma finally stood up. Everybody stop. The room went quiet. I believe Luis, Emma said. I should have believed him from the start. He has been trying to protect us. He has been trying to expose the truth, and we let Dad manipulate us into thinking Luis was the crazy one. Caleb nodded. She is right. I am sorry, bro. I should have trusted you. Mom came over and hugged me. My son saved us. He saved us all. One by one. The others came around. They started asking real questions. Wanting to understand what Frank had done. Wanting to know what happened next. Diana explained the legal process. Federal trial. Evidence. Testimony. It would take months. Maybe years. But we would get justice. As everyone was leaving, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check the construction site on Route 22. Tonight, Frank is there now. He is not going to wait for trial. He is running. I showed Agent Fletcher the text. She made a call, then looked at me. Our surveillance unit says Frank left his house 20 minutes ago. His ankle monitor stopped transmitting. He cut it off, I said. He is going through with the fake death tonight instead of tomorrow. Let's go, Agent Fletcher said. We raced to the construction site. 3 FBI vehicles. Lights off. We parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot. The site was dark, except for work lights illuminating the steel frame of a building under construction. I could see figures moving in the darkness. Through night vision binoculars, Agent Fletcher identified Frank, his attorney Bernard, and 2 other men carrying something wrapped in plastic. That is the body, Agent Fletcher whispered into her radio. They are staging the scene. All units move in. FBI agents poured onto the site from all directions. Shouting. Flashlights. Frank tried to run but slipped on ice and went down hard. They caught him. They caught all of them. I watched from behind a concrete barrier as they arrested Frank for the second time in one day. This time, there would be no bail. This time, he had been caught in the act of staging a fake death. It should have been over. But as they dragged Frank past me, he looked right at me and smiled. You think you won, he said, but you have no idea what is coming. Then he laughed, and kept laughing as they put him in the FBI vehicle. That laugh stayed with me all night, because I knew Frank. I had learned how he thought, and he would not be laughing unless he had one more trick up his sleeve. The next morning, I found out what it was. Agent Fletcher called me at 6 in the morning. Luis, I do not know how to tell you this. Frank made a deal. He is giving us information on a much larger fraud ring. Names of people who have been helping him. Other cons running across multiple states. Banking executives. Lawyers. Even law enforcement. What kind of deal? Reduced sentence. Instead of 30 years, he is looking at maybe 7 years, with possibility of parole. What? I felt like I had been punched. I am sorry. The decision came from above me. The fraud ring he is exposing is worth billions. The DOJ thinks his information is worth the deal. I hung up and sat down hard. Frank had done it again, even caught red-handed, even recorded confessing to everything. He had found a way to win. 7 years instead of 30. He would be out in his 60s. Still young enough to start over. Still able to disappear. I called Diana. She had heard the news, too. She was crying. It is not fair, she said, after everything he did. No, I agreed, it is not fair. We sat on the phone in silence for a long time. Both of us processing the fact that Frank had won after all. Maybe not completely, but enough. Then I had a thought. A terrible, dangerous thought. Diana, I said, what if we do not let him take the deal? What do you mean? What if we make his information worthless? What if we expose the fraud ring ourselves before he can trade his information? How would we even do that? He kept files. Records. We saw them in the storage unit. What if there are more? What if we find them and release everything to the press? Make it public before he can make his deal. Diana was quiet. Then, that would be incredibly illegal. We would both go to prison. Maybe, or maybe we would be whistleblowers. Maybe we would be heroes. Or maybe we would be felons. I thought about Frank's face when he was laughing. His certainty that he would win. His absolute confidence that he was smarter than everyone else. I cannot let him win again, I said. I just cannot. Diana sighed. Neither can I. We spent the next 3 days planning. Diana had kept copies of files from the storage unit before Frank reclaimed everything, hidden in her attic in plastic bins. Records of bank accounts, shell companies, names of accomplices. Everything Frank had been documenting for his own protection had now become his undoing. I worked with 2 investigative journalists from the Boston Globe who had been following white-collar fraud cases. At first, they were skeptical. But when I showed them the evidence, their eyes got wide. This is Pulitzer-level material, one of them said, but we need to verify everything before we can publish. It took 72 hours of verification. Calling banks, checking corporate records, contacting victims in other states. Every name Frank had written down led to another person who had been scammed. Every bank account led to more stolen money. The article dropped on a Monday morning, front page above the fold. Multi-state fraud ring exposed. Dozens implicated in decades-long con. The story detailed everything. Frank's real identity as Franklin Dupree, his pattern of creating fake families and stealing from them, the network of lawyers, bankers, and even law enforcement who helped him. Names were named. Evidence was presented. The article was airtight. By noon, the Department of Justice called an emergency press conference. They announced federal charges against 17 people implicated in the fraud ring. The information Frank was going to trade was now public knowledge. His deal was worthless. By evening, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced they were withdrawing the plea agreement. Frank would face the full weight of federal charges with no reduction. I watched the press conference from my mom's living room surrounded by both families. 5 wives and 9 kids all sitting together. When they announced Frank would face up to 32 years in prison, everyone was quiet. Then Trevor spoke. Is it really over? Yeah, I said. It is really over. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I testified for 3 days. So did Diana, Janet, Helen, Kristen, and Natalie. The kids testified about the lies they had been told. Financial experts testified about the money Frank had stolen. Frank's defense tried to paint him as mentally ill, as addicted, as a victim of his own compulsions. But the jury saw through it. The evidence was overwhelming. Guilty on all counts. 32 years in federal prison. Full restitution to all victims. No possibility of parole for at least 20 years. When they read the verdict, Frank did not react. He just sat there, expressionless. As they led him away, he looked at me one last time. I expected anger. I expected threats. But instead, he just looked tired, defeated. For the first time since this all started, Frank Martinez looked like what he really was. A sad old man who had spent his entire life running from the truth. The aftermath took months to sort out. The 5 families had to work with attorneys to untangle the financial mess Frank had created. Insurance companies investigated the fraud but ultimately determined the families were victims, not accomplices. Helen, Janet, Diana, Kristen, and Natalie slowly got their lives back. My job at Maxwell Electric called me back with an apology and a promotion. Gerald told me I was the most honest employee he had ever known. I became senior supervisor with a 20% raise. Emma's student loans were forgiven after she proved they were taken out through identity theft. She finished nursing school and got her license. She works at a hospital now and loves it. Caleb's credit was restored. He got approved for a small business loan and opened his own security company. He is doing well. The 5 families stayed connected. We had been through something so strange and traumatic that we became our own support group. The kids especially bonded. Trevor got his scholarship to state and invited all his half-siblings to his games. Samantha taught violin lessons to Marcus and Natalie's twins. Emma and Kristen became close friends. The following Thanksgiving, we all gathered again. Not at Mom's house this time. We rented out a community center so everyone would fit. 23 people around tables pushed together. Helen stood up to make a toast. 1 year ago, our lives fell apart. We found out everything we believed was a lie, but we also found each other. We found out that family is not just about who raised you or who you share blood with. Family is about who stands with you when everything falls apart. She raised her glass. To truth, to survival, to new beginnings, to family, we all said together. I looked around the table at these people who had become my extended family. Diana had become like an aunt to me. Trevor felt like the brother I never had. The kids were all cousins now, making plans and inside jokes. We had taken something evil and turned it into something good. Frank had tried to destroy us all. Instead, he had brought us together. Later that night, I stood outside in the cold, looking up at the stars. Diana came out and stood beside me. "You saved us," she said quietly. "You know that, right? If you had not found me, if you had not kept fighting, we saved each other," I said. "I could not have done it alone." "What did you learn from all this?" she asked. I thought about it for a long time. I learned that some people are so good at lying that the only way to beat them is to make the truth undeniable. My father taught me that family is not about blood or even about honesty. It is about who stands with you when everything falls apart. I lost a father but gained 4 families worth of people who know what it means to survive and forgive. That is the real victory. Diana nodded. "What are you going to do now?" "Live my life. Take care of my family. Both of them. All of them." She smiled. "That sounds like a good plan." We stood there in the cold for a while longer. Then we went back inside to the warmth and noise and love of our strange, broken, beautiful family. 6 months later, I got a letter from federal prison. From Frank. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short. "Luis, I know you will never forgive me. I do not expect you to, but I want you to know that you were always the one I was most proud of. You were the one who saw through me. You were the one who would not give up. You were the one who beat me. I spent my whole life trying to be smarter than everyone else. But you were smarter than me. You won. I hope that gives you some peace. Your father, Frank." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it up and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I would show it to my kids. Explain what happened. Teach them about truth and lies and the importance of standing up for what is right. But for now, I had a life to live. I had just gotten a text from Trevor asking if I wanted to come to his next football game. Emma was hosting Sunday dinner and wanted everyone to come. Marcus had a piano recital and Diana was hoping I could make it. I had family who needed me. Real family. The kind you choose. And that was more than enough. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to fight for the truth when everyone told you that you were wrong? Have you ever had to stand alone against someone everyone else trusted? What would you do if you discovered your whole life was built on lies? These are hard questions. But they are important ones. We all face situations where the truth is uncomfortable and lies are easier. We all know people who seem too perfect, too good, too convincing. And sometimes, being the person who speaks up means losing everything, but it is worth it. Because living with the truth, even when it hurts, is always better than living with lies. If this story moved you, if it made you think, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced betrayal like this? How did you handle it? What did you learn? And if you found this story valuable, please consider hitting the like button. It helps more people find these stories. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more real-life stories about resilience, justice, and family. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who is fighting their own battle against lies and manipulation. Someone who needs to know they are not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it gave you something to think about. I hope it reminded you that the truth always wins in the end. Even when the path is long and hard, stay strong, stay honest, and remember that real family is the people who believe you when no one else will. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.